Yeah, no, I mean, I think that you're right. I really loved what you said the other day when you said that women want love to happen to them and that
Mhm.
they want to be like they want to be the recipient of this thing that's being put on them. Um,
Right.
I just think that I guess I know there's a lot of depth in your philosophy, but do you think that
Mhm.
the types of desires that it speaks to are more shallow?
I
Like
think,
wanting to always
you
be in
know,
love, you know? Like wanting to always be
right.
in love, be infatuated, like it sounds nice, but it doesn't really seem like it has a lot of depth. Do you know? I mean, your philosophy has a lot of depth,
Right.
but you know, you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can think of it this way. If you go online or on YouTube, whatever, and you search staying in love or, is it possible to be in love forever type thing, you won't find anyone who teaches that this is actually possible. This is literally because being in love is just a bunch of chemical reactions in your brain. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've got the correct amount of hormones mixing together and you've got sex and love and it just mixes beautifully, you will be in love, right?
Yeah,
It's
I
kind
agree.
of engineering, input, output.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
agree.
you do this, you will get this.
I agree.
And that's what this system allows is for that hormonal mix to happen intermittent every day. Instead of you just experiencing it in the beginning of your relationship, no, you'll have it every day for the rest of your life. Will there be issues? Will there be problems? Of course. But can we please get to 1/10 or 1/20th of the issues that happens in monogamy? That would be nice. That would be awesome. You know what I mean? In the initial phase of establishing three girls in love, there's going to be tons of issues because tons of women are going to fight about it, tons of men are going to fight about it because we've had 200 years now where that hasn't been practiced, right? Or more. But eventually, just like, who is it that said it? There was a man who said that truth goes through three stages. In the beginning, it's ridiculed. Secondly, it's violently opposed, and thirdly, it's accepted as self-evident. So that's kind of the process of Three Girls in Love, but maybe we'll skip the ridicule phase for this one.
Well, that's interesting you say that because the way I feel is that it seems like nowadays the concept of marriage and monogamy is what's ridiculed. And it seems like sexual liberation and sexual freedom and promiscuity is actually what's celebrated right now. So,
Right.
so it almost like to me, I just feel like the main reason why monogamous relationships don't work in the long run is more because of people's lack of awareness with how to direct their sexual energy. And it has
Mhm.
more to do with um, their sexual patterns with each other in terms of ejaculating or orgasming too much or just just seeing I think it comes more from that than from monogamy itself. And I think that if people solve that issue, monogamous relationships would already be more successful.
Right.
Why
Like
you disagree though?
like I said again, the sexual promiscuity that's happening in society today is not good for anyone other than temporary pleasure. I mean, I watched a video that was by Jubilee, I think, where they said, um, we asked people how many sexual partners they had or whatever, and and you get the comment section down below where it's like, don't shame, like, who cares about what number you have and blah, blah, blah. No, men of high value do care about how many sexual partners you've had. it's a critical thing to know, because we know from experience and from scientific, research, that that the more sexual partners a woman has, the more secrets she's gonna have, and the more mentally unstable she will be because of all the rejection that she's gone through when it comes to sex and when it comes to relationships. The lack of trust and the bonding opportunities that she's going to have in long-term relationships are going to be massively escalated.
Like, would you say that a woman who maybe had no education in this type of philosophy, and who maybe had more promiscuity in their past, but then learned all of this stuff and decided to change, are they not allowed the same opportunity for a healthy relationship because they've changed their ways, kind of? Like, don't you think that everyone kind of has a set of issues that they're working on and getting over? You know what I mean?
Well, of course, everyone will have issues, right? And guys have to progress as well over time. But wouldn't it be better to have not gone through that pain and not gone through that rejection and not gone through all of that stuff that they've done?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But I think sometimes that's something you only know in retrospect. Like, it's kind of one of those, it's like, if the education is there, then of course you can avoid those types of things. But for the people who are already existing right now, not the new generation who you want to educate, but the people who are already in the world right now looking for healthy relationships, interested in having something long lasting and meaningful and quality, who just lack the awareness of what sex does and what it means and what it just the implications of it. Like, I think that's kind of the mentality that people are using more when they're saying that your number doesn't matter, because they're saying like there's stuff that you may have done in the past that maybe you wouldn't have done had you known certain things. But I don't think they're using it. I mean, I didn't see the video that you're talking about, so I don't really know. But I think that when people say stuff like that, I don't necessarily think it's them trying to up their own numbers or say it's okay to be promiscuous, but maybe to just not feel like you need to identify with who you used to be. You know what I mean?
Okay. Do you feel the number matters?
I think what matters most is the mindset someone has currently. I think that people can make mistakes in their past and not be judged for it if their behavior changes. If someone keeps repeating the same behavior, though, then obviously you can't really take them seriously. But if I think but I don't know. I think that like part of the human experience is going through shit sometimes, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But
Absolutely. And like, to give hope to those that have had a lot of sexual partners, right? Because we have to do that. Like, what has happened. You can't change the past.
right.
So how do you move forward from there? I mean, the earlier you make the change, the better,
Of
because the
course.
higher value man you're going to get. Like, we have to look at it from a standpoint of, do you want a high value man as a long-term committed partner to create a family? Because if that's the case, then let's make the changes necessary for you to actually get that. And it's way better for you as a woman to make the change of, you know what, I'm going to be voluntary celibate like you've chosen until I find my long-term committed partner. I mean, that's the best thing you could do if you've got a past of a lot of sexual partners, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like my decision to do that came after having gone through sexual experiences in the past, where I see now that that does not lead to happiness and fulfillment and that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So you're doing the best thing that you can do for you to be ready to actually fall in love with your high value man in the future. Does that make sense? So, so what can actually allow you to change? I mean, you've already changed on your own. It took a lot of discipline. It took a lot of focus. It took a lot of, emotional havoc to get through the initial stages of, dang, I have to be voluntary celibate now. I made a decision. But once you're actually beginning to live it, then you're returning back to femininity. You're returning back to your state of mind of not being burdened by the ups and downs of a physical relationship with someone who's not going to be there long term. So that alone is increasing your sexual market value right there, simply from the fact that you stopped and now you're returning back to your femininity in by being voluntary celibate. Right? I mean, if you started digging a hole, stop digging. That's what I'm saying for women.
Right.
Right? So that will increase your sexual market value, which will allow you to get a higher value man because of it. So that's the hope. Like, if I don't change, like I talk to men about this, I don't want them to date. So I teach voluntary celibacy for guys as well, because the double standard of guys sleeping around and increasing women's sexual partner counts is worse than the women actually sleeping around, because it's the men are the ones who are initiating all of this.
They're creating women like that. Right. Exactly.
Right. And just like Elliot Halsey says, like, they're slut makers.
Right.
But in my opinion, women cannot be sluts, because from my perspective, they can't control that. It's a natural urge for them to have sex at a certain time. And because the parents and the society has not facilitated a way for that to happen healthily, then women will go out there and have sex, with the best guy that comes around, and hopefully it'll work out long term, which it almost never does. So
right.
the goal is to get to a point where they become more feminine. What was I going to say? I was going to say, what I teach the guys on the High Value channel, be voluntary celibate, because right now in your early 20s, you have a low sexual market value. Men's sexual market value is at its peak, basically. Well, it increases over time. Like, I mean, you can be at your peak, let's say 33, 34 is the best time, or around there. Early 30s is kind of where men peak. If you date in your early 20s and you select your mate at that time, like I did, then the one you choose will have a lower sexual market value compared to the one that you would have received in your early 30s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Interesting. I mean, I guess that's what I'm getting at. Like, do you think that there's anything inherently that misses the point, like by thinking of people in that way, like by seeing, I guess, like by almost seeing people as commodities in a way, like who's more valuable than who, that it could make
the economics of dating. There's an economics to everything in life. And we just have to understand that women desire men with power, the ability to do, not necessarily power over them, but the ability to perform, to do, to take action in their lives and to progress. That's what women want. Men, on the other hand, want beauty, fertility, youth, blah, blah, blah. We know the drill. And once, like, it's not that they want a commodity, that they want a woman it's her beauty and femininity does not make her a commodity or an object. He actually loves her and wants to be with her and wants to take care of her and provide her with everything that she desires. It's not a commodity. Do you understand what I mean? But it's how highly he will treasure what he receives, and how highly he will take care of it. Just like a woman, the higher value man, the more she will adore him and desire him and be pulled towards him and be happy in life. Because women desire to be high status as well and to be high value. And if they get a guy that sucks, they're going to feel like they suck because that's all they can get.
You know how you said that the idea of monogamy and making a daily decision to be committed feels like a lot of work? Do you think that when you have to work at something, do you think that you inherently get more out of it? Like, do you think that if something is more easy, that it kind of stays at a certain level, whereas when you put more into it, you get more out of it? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, I believe, from my perspective, that Three Girls in Love gives you the best of both worlds. And I'll explain why. Because you've got the sexual aspect, the pull, the lust, if you will, where you really desire that person sexually because you're attracted to them, and that creates the bond and the feel-good hormones, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other side, you've got the commitment, the love, the depth, what we really want to have in our lives as well, the trust, the security that you're going to get what you want continuously and consistently over a long period of time. So love and lust can coexist with this. Lust is not something negative. It's a natural part of us. That's fantastic. You want to be driven by it, but you want it to drive you together with love. So it's like lust and love together is what makes it work.
Yeah, it's like you have an answer to everything. It's
Well, I
good
mean,
to hear.
we've thought about this for a long time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's very
So,
interesting, definitely. Yeah, I mean,
but I wanted to go a little bit back on what you said in the beginning of that you went through your mind thinking about the times when you actually were a bit curious, you know, about
yeah.
the female body and women in general. And you also said in the last video that what got you off in the porn that you did watch was not the man, it was actually the women. I mean, those, like, that just kind of helps people see that there's actually something to it, but it's the social stigma and the religious stigma and the jealousy that immediately your brain is bombarded with the moment you hear the word polygamy or polygyny or that I would have to share my man. It happens naturally.
Well, I was thinking about that too, about the idea of many women who identify as heterosexual are still aroused by women and images of women. But
Yeah.
and I like before when we talked about it, in my mind, I was like, oh, that's like a really good point for what he's talking about, because that would mean that women are like a lot of times inherently bisexual, which means that they could fall in love with another woman. But then I really started to think about it. And if I really think about it, anytime I've watched porn, the men have never been uh, like the cause of my arousal, but it doesn't mean I'm not attracted to men. But I
Right.
do get aroused by women, and that doesn't necessarily have to mean that I want to be with a woman. Just like how if I'm not aroused by a man, it doesn't mean that I don't want to be with a man. Like, I think that maybe women arouse other women because women by nature are just very arousing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Whereas men just they don't have the same effect. But it's different when you're watching something versus experiencing something. Like, I think that it like if I were to figure out my sexual orientation solely based on what visually arouses me, I would be a lesbian because men don't visually arouse me. But I know I'm not. I know I like to be with men. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah, 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 of
so does
course.
it
Of course.
mean so I guess does arousal inherently mean that there could be a relationship potential, or is it just because women are just naturally arousing?
They're called the fairer sex for a reason. I mean, women are more beautiful than men are. And
Mhm.
so and what's happening today is that women are becoming men and men are becoming women, and it's like no matter how much men try to become women, they'll still be ugly women. You know what I mean? And it's like, and women becoming more masculine makes them ugly. So it's like, we're biology is just going the opposite direction in that sense when we don't understand the genders. We're trying to create a more beautiful world here too, Like, wouldn't it be amazing if everyone was actually beautiful and hot and you didn't have to see ugly? Not the fact, I'm not bashing on those that are ugly, right? You can't do anything about it. It's what you're born with. It's your genetic lottery. However, our goal is to evolve humankind to make it more and more and more and more and more beautiful until it becomes paradise. We're creating, in some sense, heaven on earth by making it more appealing for everyone. There's a fantastic book written by Arabella Kenealy that was written in 1920 called Feminism and Sex-Extinction.
Okay.
Now, I searched for this book online, not knowing that there was a book that was called this. Okay, so for me, this was fate or coincidence or whatever it was. But I searched for feminism and sex extinction, wondering if feminism is the cause of people not being attracted to each other, and that's why people don't want to have sex with each other. And I was wondering if I could figure out why my wife didn't want to have sex with me. Like, I couldn't understand it because I had confidence in my opinion. You know what I mean? And I was doing all the right things, but she wasn't attracted to me once we got married. Like, what the hell? And searching for that in Google, I found the book called Feminism and Sex Extinction. And 100 years ago, the word for sex was gender, in a sense. Like, the word for gender was sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading it, and it's free online. Get it? Maybe we can put the PDF, in the
Sure.
link down below. But that book, 100 years ago, it explains how the problem with women becoming masculine and men becoming feminine. It's a powerful book. I wish that they could make like this special fanfare celebration of 100 years since that book was revealed, because that's this year's 100 years. It's flippin' amazing. And a lot of the things that we understand about it comes from that book.
Very interesting. I would definitely want to check it out. I mean, I think overall, everything you say, in theory, it all makes sense. It all checks out. There's an answer for every single question that I have. But deep down, it's still this kind of, I guess I just get the image of like the Pied Piper, like leading everyone astray to their death or something like that. You know what I mean? I was reading this book called Pornography and the End of Masculinity. And they talk about how they made a really interesting claim that anal sex grew exponentially in popularity around the same time that women were kind of getting more traction in careers and everything, and kind of competing with men more. And they interviewed a lot of men who watch anal sex, and a lot of them say that they would picture women who they hate while they like they would, like when they're watching porn, they would imagine that it was happening to a woman that they don't like, maybe a woman at work, maybe a woman who's in a higher position of power than them, almost as like a form of taking their power back or being dominating over them in that way. And it's it's like I think that porn it is driven by lust, but I think it's also driven by people's psychological wounds that they're kind of playing out with different fetishes, and porn allows those desires to be satisfied in the short term in a way. But a lot of these people, it's not like everyone's watching three women with one man. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if these certain fetishes that people go for to porn to solve could be solved all the time in having three women. Because there's certain things like because even what you said, how like with the it's not that the three women would be mimicking specific pornographic scenes with each other. It's just the idea of there being three women that's very sexy. But yeah, I don't know. I going off on a tangent, but yeah.
Well, no, porn is distorted. And like you said in the last video, it's feminine men who are addicted to porn and masculine women who are addicted to porn. So femininity in women is innocence, right? While masculinity in men is being disciplined and and massively working towards achieving their goals. So what happens in the porn industry, it's horrific. So but I'm just saying that it is inherent in men to desire to see women have pleasure from them.
Okay, interesting.
And it's also inherent to see women kiss and to see women be intimate with each other.
That's an interesting theory. I don't know if I agree completely, but that's definitely an interesting theory. I mean, I know that lesbian porn is a lot of people's gateway into porn.
Really?
Yeah, like a lot of people when they first start watching porn, they start with lesbian stuff.
Okay.
But then it gets a little bit more twisted as time goes on. But yeah, I don't know. I guess there's still a part of me that feels like it's like the snake whispering to me. You know what I mean? Like it's like the devil trying to convince me that lust is not I don't mean that you are the devil, by the way. I'm saying
plot twist.
but just the idea of like of embracing your lust. To me, I just feel like that can't lead to anything good, you know?
What is wrong with a family where the woman massively desires her man?
Nothing.
Right? Because that's really what lust is an intense sexual desire.
Kind of. I think that embracing your sexuality is different from lust. And like embracing your sexual desires is different from lust. I think that lust has more to do with it has more to do with using someone else for your own satisfaction, whereas embracing your sexuality, it is more of a give and take where it's not only you using them, but it's also you giving them pleasure as well. And it's like it's more of a relationship, whereas lust is more about you. You know what I mean? I think lust is more about the person experiencing the feeling, whereas just embracing sexuality is about giving a feeling to someone else.
Right. Well, sexuality is giving and taking. I mean,
I think that lust
Right?
is more focused on taking, though. I think lust is more focused on taking.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But to be honest with you, though, like men who actually manage to practice ejaculation control, they really don't mind if women take whatever they want from them. You know what I mean? Eh, like one of the deepest pleasures of sex for men is the woman's pleasure. So if she's taking, by all means, if you're my woman that I want to have the rest of my life with, take. Like I'm not losing anything from what you're taking. So what's the problem? You know what I mean? The only problem is when lust is directed towards someone outside of a long-term committed relationship. Then it's bad, right? Because it's like it's not going to create good results for the woman, and the man is not going to lose anything from it. Does that
Interesting.
make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. It does. That is interesting for sure.
So
What I've noticed about lust though is that it's hard to keep it contained. It's like once you start embracing lust, it's hard to keep it in a certain restriction of only this person because it's like when you have that lust, the more you indulge in it, the bigger it gets, and it's so easily transferred between people who you see every day, regardless of whether you're in the relationship with them or not. It's like when you're
mhm.
entertaining that feeling inside of you, it's just, it can grow to where you can't control it anymore because it is a
Right.
demon, I think. You know.
Well, that would be looking at it from the perspective of masculinity again, though, because femininity is unrestrained.
Hmm.
The moment you have to restrain femininity, then it ceases to be femininity. From my perspective, women, when they're in their natural state, they're inherently good. They're literally they when they have abundance in their lives, they only do good. Do you
Hmm.
understand what I mean? Like their femininity pushes them towards seeing everyone else's needs and wanting to fulfill them somehow. And they become so centered that they cease to think about themselves anymore. They want to share and they want to fulfill needs and they want to look at the problems that are surrounding them and help out. And the only restriction or restraint that would happen in the three girls in love, like let's say you actually give in to the lust towards your husband, okay? If we're gonna call it that. One, you love him because there's depth, you work, you do a lot of things for him, so there's love and depth and commitment, and then you've got the lust, which is the only place where you should really be masculine in your life as a woman is in the bedroom. But
Hmm.
because that's where the discipline should happen, because you are practicing breathing exercises, you're doing the kegels, you're learning a lot about sexuality and what can be done there. Like there's so many things about sex we haven't even discovered yet because women don't have capacity to discover it. Does that make sense? So but but the restraint is really only that the man, um, when women go in public in Three Girls in Love, they will be three, right? Because they do a lot of the activities they do together as a family. It's the women together, and when if they don't have any kids, there's not going to be one of them wandering around in town, because that would be potential for her to be rejected by other people. And a lot of the thing, like women very often want to do things together. They have this thing where they enjoy being with other people. Like very often you see this in teenagers, they want to go to the bathroom together. They don't even want to go by themselves. It's like, so I don't know, there's a lot we can talk about when it comes to that, but
No, I mean,
for
yeah, women
for
are
the
very social for sure. They definitely like having people around them. They like being surrounded by life, by plants, animals, people, babies, they like life around them and everything. But I guess I don't know. I guess it's hard to tell if I'm just very masculine. Maybe I am, but there's definitely desires that I have that I think fall under masculine traits that maybe prevent me from fully receiving the idea or fully like embracing the idea as something that I could be part of. Because I think about, well, I really like being alone. I really like my alone time. I like having time when I'm not around anyone because that's when I get to just relax and focus on myself
Be
and everything.
you. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
in Three Girls in Love, there's nothing that would say that you wouldn't get that opportunity. Because with the times when you do want to be alone, and let's say, for example, you don't want to sleep in the same room as the two other women because you're with them all of the time, or you simply, want to take a break from the family and the kids and all the loudness and all that stuff, that you go in a room by yourself and sit down and read a book or do something that you want to do. Because when you do that, you're not leaving the other person wondering what's going on and like, did I do something wrong? Whatever. No, they're together. Do you understand what I mean? So you'll have the balance there going on, in my opinion.
I mean, when I say alone time, I'm saying like a week at a time, like a really long stretch of alone time. Because there's things that I like to do that sometimes like take more time to get into. Like for instance, making YouTube videos, things like that, like things like my hobbies. Sometimes it's like the first couple days you're just getting warmed up and then eventually you get into like a flow where you're working on something.
Right.
But I'm thinking, if in a setup like that where you're always kind of surrounded by people, I feel like it'd be harder to have a big stretch of time where you would have to yourself. And then other things too, things like jealousy as well, of course, with seeing other women with one man, and then the desire to only want one person. Just, but then I think a lot of it is the religious aspect too, where I think I think there is something to the idea of just having one person and really having that one person it seems like in order to really understand the core of who someone is, you would have it would be hard to do that with so many other people involved. Like I think it would prevent, like I would think that with more people in the relationship, everyone would get to a certain level of depth that might be more shallow than the depth they would get to if it was just one on one. They might get to a much deeper understanding of each other because there's
Why
more
would there
time
not
to.
be Why would there not be one-on-one time in Three Girls in Love though? That like if you have, for example, three kids. I've got three kids.
Mhm.
When you do things together as a family all the time, no one feels special out of the kids. They feel equal. They're like, equality is fantastic. Femininity requires equality. However, if you take out one child, that child feels so special, everything's about them, and everything's wonderful. And it's exactly how it would be in Three Girls in Love as well, where they get date night or maybe a weekend away with their man, while the two others actually can take care of the kids.
I
I mean,
couldn't
this
take
is
care
a
of the kids. I'd be too focused on them. I'd be like, I want to be there. What's you doing here? I did that jealousy. It's still so strong.
actually, yeah, but wouldn't that increase your desire and excitement for your trip alone with your man? Like next weekend or next whatever time
I
that
think
you
it
do
would
go
make me
out?
feel, I think it'd make me feel bitter and resentful.
Seriously though, like from a standpoint of us having three kids, us homeschooling them, like we've taken on a massive load, right?
Right,
And
right.
we never really get a break ever.
Right.
And we see the practical benefits as well as the emotional and all the other benefits I've stated, the practical benefits of actually being able to go away for a weekend or for a week without needing anyone else of grandparents or uncles and aunts and whatever it is that we would need, they're all over the world. You know,
Yeah.
so we don't have that. We don't have that. So to be able to leave them with people we trust and
Right.
that we know these kids won't die while we're gone for a few days time or a week,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like just that practicality and peace and serenity to know that they're with people that they're family, you know what I
I
mean,
see
and they
that.
know the
I can
routines.
definitely understand your point there, you know?
Right, they know safety measures, they know everything, they know the system. It's not like we're leaving people that have never been with these kids before or that see these kids once every month, you know what I mean?
Right,
this
right.
is this is family, and we're safe and relaxed, and we can go out and we come back and we help our kids to feel abundance again, because that's really, this system is for women and children. That's what it's based towards. And the man gets benefits too, but it's really based upon creating a beautiful next generation.
Right. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's always very interesting to talk to you. I love the conversations that we have. I think that you're on the, leading edge of a lot of this stuff when it comes to relationship issues and tackling the most common issues people face, like cheating, sexuality, attraction, all of those things. It's always very interesting to hear your approach to it. There's a lot of things that you say that I really, maybe I don't get it in the moment, but then it'll hit me a little bit later, and I'll notice myself falling into a pattern that you have talked about, or I'll notice myself like observing patterns that you've talked about in the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this particular idea, I'm still not 100% into, but I
I
definitely
do not
appreciate the
expect you to
conversation.
be. Like, you heard this 2 weeks ago. Like, how on earth would you be, oh yeah, I'm full on, I'm gonna accept this and this is my life? Like, it doesn't work like that. Everything that's kind of very different will take a long time before it actually settles in. And the key point that you're mentioning is awareness, is that you're actually out there, and once you've heard what I share, and you just like masculinity, femininity, those issues, and you begin to see the patterns, because your whole life really is noticing case studies. Every person you see is a case study. Every
Yep.
person you see has a history. Every person you see has relationship baggage
Hmm.
or are in a relationship right now where you can understand the dynamics and what's going on and why. That's the key point, is understanding why and going to the depths of why when it comes to relationships.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you that I think sexual energy is at the root of all of it. I definitely agree with you there.
There's a book that I read called Stop Fighting About the Three Biggest Issues in Your Marriage: Sex, Money, and Kids. And those are the top three things that monogamous relationships fight about. And in essence, that's what Three Girls in Love has solved.
Right, right. And that's interesting. Maybe our next video topic could be about pregnancy and what babies do to a marriage. Because I think that
Nice.
I think that a lot of my perspective, it's like the desires and the perspective I have right now is as is a woman who is unmarried with no kids, you know. But after talking to your wife and hearing her perspective on why she wants three girls in love, it seems like it seems like when you have kids, everything changes in terms of what you look for, what you want, what you so so maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just the circumstances. Like if I had a kid, maybe three girls in love would sound really appealing, you know? But Yeah, I would like to talk to you about that one day. The effect of kids on a marriage and what it does to attraction, especially.
Absolutely fantastic topic. You're really good at coming up with the best topics.
Cool.
For sure. All
Cool.
right. I'll see you next time then.
Okay, sounds good.